Welcome to another episode of Insightful Conversations, where we dive into real stories of entrepreneurs and international development from around the world. Today, we will be exploring experiences from Chad and Lebanon. I'm Mushtaq Memon, Professor Emeritus at Washington State University and Vice President for Livestock at We Empower. And I am joined by my colleague, Noubia Gribi-Hussain, an agriculture economist, founder, and CEO of We Empower, with more than 30 years of experience managing large international development projects across 25 countries. Her work has always placed women and youth at the center of transformation. Welcome, Noubia. We are so glad to have you with us to share your insights on agriculture, women, and youth empowerment.
Hello, Mushtaq. Hello again. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to join, and I'm really happy to share my experiences with you today. When we talk about agriculture entrepreneurship, Mushtaq, especially in Africa and the Middle East, young people often see farming as outdated or of low value. But in fact, agriculture is a foundation for economic growth. Nations that invested early in agricultural innovation built strong, resilient economies. We have seen that, we know that, developed in developed countries. And as we both know, food security is central. Everyone eats every day. So someone must produce, process, and deliver that food. It's not going to grow by itself. And today, agriculture is no longer about substance or hard manual labor like it used to be. With technologies such as drip irrigation, hydroponics, greenhouse systems, digital platforms, farming can be knowledge-driven, efficient, and highly profitable. The challenge is creating the right ecosystems for women and youth to engage.
Noubia, you have worked extensively with women and youth in Africa and the Middle East. Can you share a couple of examples where production wasn't the main issue, but connected to markets, meeting standards, or even pricing became the real challenge? I think that perspective will help our listeners understand the shift from just producing to truly competing in international markets.
That's exactly where my experience comes in, Mushtaq. For example, in southern Chad, along the border with Cameroon, I worked with women processing shea butter across roughly, I would say, 30 villages. The quality of their product was excellent. The real barrier wasn't production. They're doing a great job. It was markets. So by introducing market systems, which focuses on packaging standards and connecting them to reliable buyers, that is what was really needed. My training introduced the idea of moving from a supply push to a market pull approach, extending consumer preferences, regulations, and pricing in the EU and also in the US before entering those markets. I'm just giving you two examples of the EU or US, but all I want to say by that is international markets rather than local markets, because when we started our project, they were selling their products in N'Djamena, and it wouldn't even cover their labor, let alone all their investment in buying the produce, the material, etc. So with USAID project, because the support was funded by USAID, United States Agency for International Development, we trained women in quality control, provided the necessary materials, and built their capacity to compete in export markets. That's when their work stopped being just local processing and became a true business.
These are really powerful examples. What they show is that the bottleneck usually isn't in production, it is in what comes after: the market linkages, the quality standards, and the know how that connect producers to real opportunities.
That is exactly the issue. I saw the same challenges in Lebanon, where I worked with women's cooperatives producing dairy, processed food, and artisanal products. The quality was there, That was not the problem at all. But the hurdles came with food safety, competitive pricing, and market access. Through, once more, the USAID program, we focused on practical training from food safety system to smart marketing strategies and linking them directly with buyers. What stood out to me is that women are already at the heart of food systems. It's already there. But without the right tools to compete in modern markets, their potential and impact remain under or recognized.
And this is where youth comes in, bringing digital tools, innovation, and global networks to bridge those gaps. If women's traditional knowledge is combined with youth-driven entrepreneurship, it creates powerful synergies for rural transformation.
Precisely. And from a policy perspective, Mushtaq, it means interventions must focus not only on production, but also on building market systems that we saw it earlier, that I talked about earlier for Chad, supporting women's cooperatives and integrating youth as agent of innovation. This is what's needed. Agriculture then becomes more than just food. It becomes a pathway to economic empowerment, gender equality, and resilience. That is so crucial. So in Lebanon, again, I carried those lessons forward with young entrepreneurs in agriculture. Some were innovating hydroponics, others were building online platform to sell fresh produce. Again, the turning point was always market linkages, helping them understand demand, brand their products, and plug into value chains. To be honest with you, each time I met women cooperatives or young entrepreneurs, they didn't even know what the problem was. They would always tell me, we cannot find buyers. So I would look at the product and I said, okay, this is excellent. Do you have consumer preferences? What is the branding? Did you take your products to labs? What is, you go into all this, if you wish, list of what they need to do before linking to market in this world where the globalization is not really helping for those who cannot raise to the challenges. They, most of the time, they have no answer for that. What we say is they basically push the supply to the market. One needs to pull. So it's a market-driven approach. You first need to know what the consumer wants, and then you come in with your product. Whether it's women in Chad or women cooperatives and youth in Lebanon, empowerment happens when people stop seeing themselves only as producers and start owning their role as entrepreneurs in modern markets. And that's exactly where agriculture becomes more than survival. It becomes a driver of opportunity, dignity, and inclusive growth. So that brings us to the end of today's episode. A big thank you to all of you for tuning in, and to our listeners everywhere for joining this conversation on agriculture, women, and youth empowerment. We hope you found it inspiring and insightful. Don't forget to follow the podcast for more stories and discussions. Until next time, thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Noubia, for sharing your insightful with us today. And thank you to our listeners for joining. We will see you next time.